That's bizarre. I don't know why that was happening. I wasn't able to use my typical profile picture. I think it has something to do with pending monetization of my channel. Let's see. Picture. I think it has something to do with pending monetization of my channel. Let's see. Picture. I think it has something to do with pending monetization. My bad. Yeah, we're gonna be hearing that twice. Alright, I think everything's squared away. Sound check sounds fine. Not sure why it wasn't letting me start the broadcast with my normal icon, but good enough. Yeah, I got back from the store and had a million things to answer real quick, so gotta check YouTube still. Everything is all good. Yeah, a lot of feedback on the survival systems. Unfortunately, has been standard of just about everything I do. People will watch 30 seconds of a YouTube video and then immediately form an opinion and tell me how it should be and what the ideal system is, and it's always the same. It's always, oh, I saw a 30-second clip of your Thirst and Hunger video. You should really be adding a restaurant system where players have to serve food to others and do all this to add hunger. It doesn't make sense otherwise. And it's like, everybody's got their own ideas and opinions, and that's fine, but people need to understand a lot of time and effort to make this stuff. I'm making it because of a overarching goal and vision with the server, and people need to, you know, people can give suggestions and commentary and whatnot, that's fine, but people often want to inject their fantasy into the development process, hoping that they can get their dreams to come true without actually having to do any of the work. People need to really just understand, you know, sometimes things are better just enjoyed for what they are. Alright, looks like we're all squared up on comments. Make sure I got some water, got a fresh Red Bull. Good day, KKND, how are you? So this is going to be the first in a series of development streams that I'll be doing. It's basically just going to be a commentary narrative over whatever my standard work day is looking like. So I'm not really going to be here to answer questions outside of the few people I'm doing the stream for. If there's questions in chat, I will read them at some point, but not with a sense of urgency. These streams are intended really just to give somebody an insight into what the work looks like. Let's dive right into where we were leaving off. Typically my day starts out, I wake up at whatever 8 hours after I've passed out the next day, or previous day. Last night it was 6:30 in the morning, so I didn't wake up until about 2 o'clock. I woke up, read over my messages. I always check my inboxes first, Discord, YouTube comments, then any other places I might have received message. And then once I've gone through all the messages, typically I look for bugs, bug reports. I try and get fixes done first thing when I wake up. The server has had incredible stability for the past year, I would say. The initial, I would say at the beginning of the year, and for anyone who really wants a descriptive timeline of Wallcraft started when Hyjal unfortunately experienced the OVH fire and burned down. So when Hyjal burned down, I basically started Wallcraft as a 1.8.4 pre-AQ vanilla server, a server that used the 1.8.4 client and was locked before AQ. AQ wasn't in the game at that point. Then eventually it became a custom project where I moved it up to 1.12 client instead. I ported all the custom work that I had done on the 1.8.4 client over to 1.12, and then I had a ton of work and a ton of development over like the next year and a half or so, and then I started working on Everlook, and then once I was done with Everlook, I went back to Wallcraft. That was January in the beginning of this year, and I had to port all of the work over from basically a year-old version of vMangos up to an updated core, and a few things broke during that time, but we got them all squared away, got them all fixed up by March, and I would say since April this year, the server has had 100% uptime, outside of monthly updates or any event updates. Basically, outside of me having to shut down the server to run an update, the server has had 100% uptime. And the reason for that is we want to keep our stuff clean. We want to make sure our functions are clean, that they're not dangerous, that they won't crash, because every night I wake up in a cold sweat, and the first thing I do is my eyes, before they're even open, my body is shooting up out of bed, and I am staring at the console for the server to make sure that it's still online and that there's no crash, and we haven't experienced that in over a year, so that's a wonderful feeling. The dread still is there, and it will never go away, because my primary responsibility is to keep this thing running, and to keep it running until the sun burns out. That's really the overarching goal here. We want the server to have 100% uptime and 0% downtime, preferably, outside of scheduled updates or maintenance, which, unavoidable. I might consider rewriting the honor management system, and likely I'm just going to be getting rid of honor rewards altogether, so honor and titles are going to be rather tertiary, more so an accomplishment. Currently, for VMangos, the only real need to restart a server is to run honor corrections. Everything else should be able to run in continuum without any shutdown. Cool Zoom has experimented with running a project for I think he's achieved 2-year uptime on a stable core. Obviously nobody really plays it, but it's run for 2 years straight with no downtime. I think that's the record right now for VMangos. So VMangos is intended to be able to be run in continually with no downtime. When Wallcraft launches, obviously there's going to be systems in the game that are going to necessitate some sort of restart, but we want to mitigate that. We want to minimize that, and preferably we want to move honor maintenance to a monthly reboot, or possibly no reboot whatsoever. If that's achieved, then outside of possible issues, let's say a quest NPC doesn't reset correctly and I have to manually reset it, well, obviously we want to fix that so that we don't have to reset it, and then we never have to reset. That's the goal, is 100% uptime. In terms of, what the system should be running like. Obviously that should be the goal for every project, but it becomes difficult. Look at a big project like Turtle. They're a very big they have a very big code base. They have a lot of additions to their core, they have a lot of additions to their client, and the additions are well done, but they lead to issues compounding on top of each other. And when you're adding stuff without going back and fixing it continually, it compounds over time. Over this past 3 weeks, one of the issues that I fixed was a map issue, which I'll showcase right now. A map issue with Nugget in Dalaran Crater, and let's load up Nugget first. This issue has existed since I did any port work to Dalaran Crater, and basically in Nugget it looked fine like this, but in the client for the past X amount of months that Dalaran Crater's been in game, up until this most recent patch, the dome had a opaqueness to it. It had the original vanilla dome where you couldn't see through the dome. The Wrath of the Lich King version is supposed to be transparent so you can see the actual crater. The vanilla version is opaque and you're not actually able to pass through it. You can't get into it. Whereas the Wrath of the Lich King one has no collision. The issue was the dome itself. The dome itself is a Wrath of the Lich King asset that you're seeing here. And Nugget, the map editor that I'm using, is a Wrath of the Lich King map editor. It can be used for vanilla. The ADTs for Wrath of the Lich King can be backported to vanilla. The only issue is liquids. The structure for liquids changes over the course of the expansions between TBC and Wrath of the Lich King. TBC is... In fact, TBC client is almost the exact same as vanilla in terms of assets, table structures, etc. The TBC client, you could tell when they wanted to develop TBC content, and this is what I was referring to the other day. Somebody was talking to me and they said, well, Blizzard wanted the expansion model from the beginning, and I said, no. The developers wanted to make vanilla for a decade. They wanted to continually expand on vanilla. They didn't want expansions. They wanted to just keep making the game world bigger and bigger, which is how, frankly, the game should be. There shouldn't have been expansions. The game should have just gotten bigger and expanded itself. The developers wanted to expand vanilla, which is why the structures for TBC are almost specifically the same. They didn't have big plans to overhaul or update anything. They wanted to just keep expanding. So TBC content can be backported into vanilla almost flawlessly. You just drag and drop. Very easy to backport TBC. I could add the entirety of Outlands and every raid zone and every raid map from TBC into Wallcraft within an hour. That's how long it would take me to add it. It's just straight up drag and drop, pretty much. There is a few exceptions for some areas, obviously. I think Netherstorm might have some assets that use vertex shading that you'd probably want to run through a converter just to strip, but it wouldn't even be necessary. The client would still run them, provided that you had vertex shaders enabled. Without them enabled, the client likes to crash, but with them enabled, it's not a problem. So getting back to this, though, the dome over Dalaran was a Wrath of the Lich King dome. It was an asset from Wrath of the Lich King, and I had to backport it. But the problem is, when you backport it, then you have to have your Nugget Wrath of the Lich King client match up to what your vanilla client is supposed to essentially look like. So when I go into over here, we can see the data structure for the Wrath of the Lich King client is different. It has common files, which TBC does as well. It has common files, and then it has patch files as well. It has base locale files and patch files for locales. So there's basically a split in the structure after vanilla that we have to address in the Nugget client that we're using, the Chromicraft 3.3.5 Wrath of the Lich King client, to make it match up with the vanilla client. And what we do for that is we take the Wrath of the Lich King client structure, and we want to put it in storage, not delete it, but put it in storage because we're often going to need it to swap it back out when we want to edit the Wrath of the Lich King client, not the vanilla client. So we store those, and then we're going to take the common folders, and we're going to put them in there. We're going to take the patch 1 and the patch 2, and then the patch 3 that's traditionally there, we're going to replace that with our patch 3. And when we do this, we need to make sure that we edit the patch 2 for area tables. The patch 2 should have a patch 2 Wrath of the Lich King structure, but the area tables and the map templates need to be swapped out. Otherwise, Nugget won't be able to recognize area flags properly. It'll have Wrath of the Lich King area flags, which won't export correctly. So basically, we convert our Nugget client to a vanilla client. Our Wrath of the Lich King data file structure is matching vanilla. The problem with this is that Nugget is still a Wrath of the Lich King client. So when we backport the dome or any of these floating rocks, it breaks them in Nugget. And then when Nugget fails to load them, it won't be able to place the map objects correctly in the ADT because they're not loaded properly. It doesn't have any of the bounding radiuses or anything like that in the proper offsets. Those assets won't be loaded into Nugget, and then when I export the map, they'll break in vanilla, despite having the vanilla assets there. So it's just a big conundrum, and you have to figure out, okay, well, I need to keep the vanilla patch structure, but I need to keep these Wrath of the Lich King assets. Well, Nugget reads from the saved folder. Any work that you've done in Nugget gets saved into a specific directory, and then it loads those files. You're expected to put those files into your patch, and then they just match up with it. But what you'd really want to do is, you have to be very careful with Nugget. Nugget is one of the few things where you'll make a mistake 6 months ago, and it will haunt you 6 months later. So always back up every change that you do in Nugget and store it somewhere. I store it directly on the server. I have a RAID array of drives, plenty of storage. I could store Nugget maps until the day I die. Always back them up, always store them. Anytime I move them into a patch, I put the patch in storage, and I will only remove the storage when I know the map is 100% flawless or has no issues, or if the issue is within a grid that I'm willing to completely repair. Because the worst thing that will happen is you need to redo it from scratch. You just put the original vanilla files back in and you do it from scratch. So we're going to go back into Chromie. And we're going to take a look... Ooh, actually, wrong directory. We're going to go to the Chromie saved export folder. And we're going to take a look at the World Expansion 01 doodads. And what I've done is essentially gone into the save folder, and I've placed the original Wrath of the Lich King assets into the save folder, because this gets loaded last. So it will load my vanilla patch structure into the Wrath of the Lich King client, but it will override any assets that need to be specifically in a Wrath of the Lich King format to work in Nugget. So the $N stuff, the Crater Dome, the Sewer Grates, these are all ported into Nugget in the Wrath of the Lich King version, and then when they're saved as map reference objects, which match up in terms of collision, and the structure that matters for vanilla will match up. The only time that you'll probably have any issues if it's a WMO which has water inside. If there's WMO water, you're probably out of luck. I don't know how $N's going to handle with WMO water. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'll probably have to edit it in a hex editor. So, anyway, this was the issue that I was having with Nugget, and I managed to figure out the proper structure. I exported it, and now it's correct on vanilla. The issue then being Nugget generates a WDL file and a WDT file. Those files are basically like headers that describe the map for the entire map. So Azeroth.wdt would be describing the entirety of Eastern Kingdoms. And if you can see on the map, there's a little bit of an anomaly here. And this is because the way I currently have Outlands set up, Outlands was backported and was posted on model changing. I got the asset from there, and all the maps, the backports from there. And the way that they had done it was they basically just stuck it on the edge of the Eastern Kingdoms in the sea, where there was, no other... there was no access for the players because it's out of map bounds, but it's within the definable regions for a world map. So as you can see, though, we're going through and we're looking at Outlands. The current Wallcraft patch has Outlands disabled for the reason that the WDT file and the WDL file that were overwritten while recreating the $N crater had defined it essentially redefined the map region to not include this. So you can go there, but there's no terrain definitions. You're basically just floating in the void if you go there right now. But that's already fixed. I fixed the WDL and the WDT. It's just one of those things, though, where it's two steps forward, one step back for everything you do. You know, just fixing the $N crater broke Outlands. I fixed Outlands. It's probably going to break something else. Luckily, I don't think it will because, just the nature of the fix. Another one that I had to fix the other day was Sabo's house. Sabo, unfortunately, isn't... I think he changed his name. I can't remember. I don't think he's in the Discord. I think he changed his name into something else. I can't remember. But I added his house to Booty Bay, his private house here. And I added the custom path and this nice little ridge going over the tunnel here, the entrance. So when you enter into Booty Bay, you go typically around this area, and this is normally just a big wall on the hill. Well, there's now a little path here that leads up, and it takes you up to the ridge here where his house is. And he's got this nice little bungalow house kind of tucked away up on the cliff and overlooking Booty Bay. One of the coolest houses I think I've built so far. I want to add a lot more detailing to the outside. I didn't have a whole lot of time. The terrain itself had taken up like an entire 4-hour chunk of my day. But I had done this terrain, and we can see the ADT grid lines, because the entire game is measured in tiles, essentially. So these tiles right here for Booty Bay, you can see denoted by the green line. This tile was edited for the house, so the entire data structure for this tile changes when I edit it like that. And because there was a Wrath of the Lich King asset up here, the Booty Bay, or the Gromgol Zeppelin Tower changes in Wrath of the Lich King, I was having issues with backporting it, and it was creating map issues for me, unfortunately. It's just one of those things where, you know, you make one change and it breaks 10 other things, and you got to figure out how to not have them break and then redo all the work. But what had happened was, because this grid, this specific tile right here, if you can see, the red line, it's a sub-chunk, it's a chunk within the grid. Every grid is measured, I can't remember the width and the distance, I think it's 16 by 16, something like that. 64 by 64, I don't know. But yeah, this little chunk in the grid, it has 2 water levels. If you notice, it has 2 different water levels on it. So, because there's water up here, and there was water directly in this corner, the exporting process for Wrath of the Lich King uses different water structure, and TD made a specific fork for vanilla editing, which backports water, but it doesn't handle water at terrain levels. So 2 different levels was breaking the water in this very specific grid, and water wasn't here. So what I did to fix it was delete the water slightly from the top of the waterfall and then fill back in the water here, and luckily that fixed it. Obviously it's missing a tiny little bit of water on the waterfall, but that doesn't matter, because when we draw models with animation, you're standing down here, you don't even see it. If you're swimming up there, you don't really see it. It's not a big deal. Tiny little gap in the waterfall there. But another side issue, though, as a result, is that this specific grid tile, although it's fixed as realistically best as I can without redoing the entire house over here and the entire change to Booty Bay, this one specific grid tile has fatigue flags, and I probably can fix them. I'm going to attempt that right now. The problem is, I don't know how grid chunks are measured in the ADT. So I have the ADT. We know it's tile coordinate 3158 for Azeroth. We're going to try and fix that right now to see if we can remove the fatigue flags without breaking everything else. Azeroth 3158. I'm going to extract it from my client patch, and Lodix MPQ editor is this program. It's definitely one that you want. You can find it up in my tools channel or resources channel. Lodix MPQ editor allows you to edit data patches for the client. The MPQ file format is basically like a zip file, but it's structured in a chunked format, and everything is measured in offsets against each other. So it's a very smart file format. I can't remember. It's the MOPAC is the full name. MPQ stands for MOPAC. I can't remember the person who made it. It's not Mark Kern. MPQ file format. I'll Google that real quick. Mike O'Brien pack. That's what it stands for. The MOPAC. Mike O'Brien. Mike O'Brien was a Blizzard employee who pioneered this file structure, the MPQ, and it's a very smart format. Proprietary Blizzard file format, but obviously with MPQ editors and tools like Lodix, you can generate your own to match exactly Blizzard's format. Yeah, Mike O'Brien, though, he created this file structure. It's an archiving file format that is read-only and is able to be edited and reread by the client very easily. It stores everything in a chunked file format, the same way, in the same kind of structure that the files themselves are created and stored. But Yeah, that's the gist of an MPQ. It's a very nice file format. MPQs were eventually done away with for the cask system, the cask file system, which is basically like a headerless chunk file containing all of the assets and interlinks to other files. The cask file format, although it's more powerful, and it's probably just as easy to use if you have the proper tools to generate cask files that Blizzard themselves have. The cask file format for somebody who's doing private server stuff is far worse to work with than an MPQ. In terms of indie developer standpoint, MPQ is far better, at least in my opinion. Some people prefer cask file format, but me personally, the MPQ, it just works. It just makes sense. Never have issues with it. It does exactly what I need it to do and what it's supposed to do. So, okay, we extracted this tile here, 3158, and what we're going to be doing is pulling this open in a hex editor. Oops. We're going to actually go to our extracts. Take a look here. World Maps Azeroth. We're going to open this up in 010 editor. Now, I know I should change the registry key for 010 to not require me to friggin' sign up for that thing all the time, but not a big deal. I don't mind reinstalling. So now we got our ADT tile open in hex editor. We're going to go ahead and run our templates. We have a collection of templates that are used for various hex files here. Various files that are stored in hex format. I don't know which one is going to work, though, is the problem. We're going to try and run them all. Okay, cool. Schlumpf has a pack somewhere floating around on model changing, which I can post. In fact, I'll post it in the Discord here, the resources, in case anybody's ever looking for them. Because they're very difficult to find. These templates, you're going to have to scour far and wide. I posted that in the resource channel. There's nothing super fancy in there. If you talk to somebody like Alistair or Schlumpf or TD, they probably have, 1,000 times as many as I do. Way more useful ones, but the ones that I have, they work for vanilla. That's what I need. They do what I need. Okay, so let's take a look at this file structure here. We have several chunks in the list. We're going to reference them on the WoWDev wiki. WoWDev ADT. Just anytime you need to find information, just search Google WoWDev, and then whatever you're looking for, you'll find it. Okay, so ADT files contain terrain and object information for map tiles. They have chunk structure just like WDT files. Map tile is split up into 16 by 16, 256 map chunks, which is these little red squares that we're looking at here. This is the individual map chunks. It's 16 by 16, 256 total. We are looking for one specific chunk that I have no idea how to find. Not the same as file chunks, although each map chunk will have its own file chunk. Each map chunk will have its own file chunk. That right there, though, might be referencing to cask file format. It's an ADT. I think ADTs are stored, but this is V18. I think we're looking for V14. Split files started appearing in Cataclysm with ADT root, texture, object, and then chunks are distributed over the files. So those are sub-chunked headerless ADTs beginning in Cata, and that's when it started moving into cask file format. So we don't need anything from there. What we're looking for specifically is the names of these. MVAR, MHDR, MCIN. So these are the ones that we need. MVAR, MHDR, MCIN. Less than Cata. So we're going to be focused on this. MVAR, of course, as always, is just the version. It's going to be the standard number. Every number post-alpha is the same. The version denotes how the client is supposed to read the file. But if you look in every version, they're all the same for vanilla. MVAR 4 bytes. It's got a chunk header byte magic. We can find the revision. It's 4. This version might be different. In fact, from what I'm recalling, it might be different because I've run the tile through Nugget, so I might convert it up to 4. Possibly it's lower in vanilla. It might be 1 for vanilla. And what I can do is I can actually find that out by extracting from the client. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the terrain patch. I'm just going to find a random Emerald Dream. Yeah, we'll grab Emerald Dream because this is probably a alpha file. It might be converted. We're not even going to trust it if it's converted or not, because Emerald Dream obviously is an alpha map. Dead Mines instance. This should be fine. We're going to extract this. We're going to open this in the ADT editor. Or the hex editor. Run the same template. Oh. Click to load or ignore. We ignore our problems. And we hope that it's fine. Okay, yeah. So, that's the thing. This template is going to give an error because it runs past the end of chunk. We notice that there's nothing in here. It could itself be the tile because the tile is basically a floating chunk of texture above Edwin Van Cleef's boat in Dead Mines that's just used for the surrounding map. Has no textures, has no objects, has no models, or probably has a texture list, but let's see. Okay, so there is offsets listed in the front, and MH20 should be unused, so the fact that this is empty and these first ones that are supposed to be there are reading correctly tells me that the template just had an error because it runs past the end of file structure, and since this wasn't run through Nugget, it's not converted to have those empty chunks that would be existing. Because I'm fairly sure that they might get scrubbed. I could be totally wrong on that. I could just be, guessing, but that's probably my best bet. Either way, this one pulls open fine in the template, so let's take a look at the information. We don't need to know about the version. What we're looking for really is the header into the offset for fatigue flags, specifically. We want to find out what flags are used for fatigue. Treat as fatigue area if bit set. Okay, so MH20 chunk, and that's the problem. We have an MH20 chunk with chunk attributes for it. It's got deep water. The problem is, MH20 doesn't exist in vanilla. It's the Wrath of the Lich King liquid format that I was talking about earlier, which means it has a flag that's flipped somewhere else that's used for vanilla. We have... Okay, there we go. MCLQ subchunk. Split files, root water levels for this map chunk. This is what we're looking for. The MCLQ is the fork of Nugget that we're using that specifically exports maps with the old liquid structure for vanilla, MCLQ, which later turns into MH20 and Wrath of the Lich King, but both chunks are still often used for some reason. I'm guessing it's because Wrath of the Lich King water has different data values that need to be included, but they're not strictly necessary. For whatever reason, they use both of them, and it's actually cool that they both work still in later clients, because Wrath of the Lich King editors, people who make Wrath of the Lich King servers, in custom content, they're able to use both sub-chunks at the same time to have multiple layers of liquid stacked on top of each other. You can stack like 50 layers of water on top of each other within a sub-chunk using these two structures. Let's see, this chunk is really old and not really used anymore. Still, there's backwards compatibility in the client, as old ADTs are not updated, as it would be much data to patch it. I guess it will be done in some expansion. You can fully use this chunk even to have multiple water. You can have a lot of stacked water with this and the MH201. Okay, so they just said the exact same thing I said. Yeah, so I guess that's why. Basically, Blizzard wanted to convert them all to MH2O, but because there's so many map tiles in vanilla and TBC that still had the old structure, they just made them both compatible. Deprecated with Wrath of the Lich King, as it is better if you want to write an editor for ADT files. Yep. So that's a big problem, is that almost all tools are designed for Wrath of the Lich King and not vanilla, and the inconsistencies cause issues. So the size of the chunk is the map chunk header. Type of liquid is given in the map chunk flags, also in the header. Okay. Map chunk header. And map chunk flags. Type of liquid is given in the map chunk flags, also in the header. Presuming the chunk's data length based on IFF chunk.size or liquid size is unreliable. There are several cases of data not equaling size length, and in the alpha clients there is no size indicator at all. Okay, presuming this chunk's data length based on IFF chunk.size and or liquid size is unreliable, there are several cases of size not being equal to the data length, and in the alpha clients there's no size indicator at all. The optimal way of parsing this chunk is to sequentially validate what liquid flags are set, if any, and read accordingly. This will also provide the liquid type and therefore what SL vert to use. So you basically just want to look through every single, all 256 chunks, if they exist, and look at the liquid flags. Not low depth, force swimming, or fatigue is what we're looking for. It's going to be in the SL tiles format, or in the SL tile structure. The problem is this template probably doesn't show that. This is texture, MMDX, MWMO, and yeah. Okay, well, we see the array. We see mchunk, which has the array, mcnk. That's chunk structure, and all the headers are up here. We got our offsets. So we need to specifically locate what chunk this is, and the problem is Nugget doesn't tell you that, so it's anybody's guess. What we really want to do though is we want to go through, find the correct fatigue flags that are referenced, and then just verify all chunks are correct. There's probably a script I can write to automatically do this, but I'm not that big brain, so I'm not a wizard with 010. I wish I was, but I mean, I do a decent amount of work in it, but nothing that fancy. Alright, let's keep on reading though. We don't need to know about textures whatsoever here. Let's go back up to the top though. So mchunk has mclq chunk. Should be after mcal chunk. And we're going to assume that it's, because right now we're facing south. We're gonna guess that the maps are measured north, you know, being the first rows, south being the last. And due to this, it means we can kind of guesstimate that it should be somewhere there's about 16 by 16. We're gonna assume it's rows and not columns, so we can check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it would be 3. So possibly 6, 3. Oh, it starts with 0 though, so it'd be 5, and then it would be 2. 0 byte, and byte size. Care magic, tell me that. Byte size, we need flags. And this just might be the chunk header. Yeah. And it's split files in the root. This information is old and incomplete, as well as maybe wrong. Oh, I love it. Don't you just love working with this stuff? It's so... It's cargo cult tier work. You're waiting for a Coca-Cola bottle to come flying out of heaven and smack you in the head to lead you on to the next way. Or you're some black magic magician friggin' performing Necronomicon rituals with these files to try and figure out what the hell they mean. You know what this means? You know what this sentence means? It means it's time for a cigarette. That's what that means. Be right back. Alright, and we are back on a short smoke break. Okay, let's dive right back into it. Let's take a look at the chunk here. So we've got the chunk header, structure header. Size liquid. Now what is size liquid? What that do? Eight when not used. Only red if 8. Well, it offsets into the sub-chunk. My guess is I'm looking at the wrong chunk. But that's good, though, because this specific grid doesn't have that much water. It has this river water, and it has this water. If I can find this exact... If I can find this exact grid, I could probably open up the default vanilla map portion of it and just swap out the data. It's got to be a pain in the balls, yeah, because I'd have to redo the offsets, chances are. I wouldn't even have to redo the offsets, though. Those should be correct. So the header should be fine. It's just the liquid data. And if the liquid data points to 2 different types of liquid, then that might be the issue. So, this chunk, totally empty. We're looking at the wrong one. We don't know what row it's at. The best thing that we can do right now is find a row with liquid. And then once we find a row, we can kind of extrapolate where we are based on the column and the row. That's probably going to be the best bet. Alright, let's see. So this is where we play the guessing game. We just start guessing. We're not even in the right part. What are we doing? No, this has to be right. This has to be right because these don't have MCLQ at the bottom. They don't even have a liquid chunk whatsoever. So yeah, the map won't even contain the liquid chunk if it doesn't have one. So the fact that these have liquid chunks... Okay, so we're going to expand all of these structures that we find. This is a structure row 10, structure chunk 10 with MCLQ. This doesn't have it. So we can assume that this structure row... Yep. Okay, so we're going to go row going north to south, and then columns are going to be read from 0 to 15. So yeah, 0 to 15, and then 0 to 15. I read somewhere that, yeah, Blizzard uses north to south and then west to east orientation for... They use that for some things, but not other things. Quaternions, I think, are totally inverted. Some of them are flipped on the ZX axis. The reason why developers do things in a non-standard way is to just make it so hard for people to copy. And it's strictly a copy protection stuff. So the problems that I'm facing right now are literally somebody in Blizzard 20 years ago laughing and adding this shit, saying, ha ha ha, this is gonna fuck him up 20 years from now, and I'm sitting here saying, you got me. So, luckily, we've got the structure figured out. So, what we're going to have to do now is count. What we're going to do is get rid of the doodads so we can actually see stuff. We're going to count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2. So it should be 5, 2. And I was right, yeah, I was right at first. So it was that. What was that one that we were looking at? So 5.2. MCLQ. And this chunk is probably just all fucked up. So yeah, let's read some more. See what I can be learning. MCLQ. Yeah, what is this? What is this? This is what I'm looking for. What is this? And it's not... Okay, so the problem that I'm really guessing here is this template's all fucked. And maybe it runs correctly, but it's just not showing. Either way, I don't really need the template. Let's be real here. We can do this. 04 and 02. Well, we know it's got a flag at 4 of 2. So, what we're really trying to determine is fatigue flags. And whether or not that this is correct. So, what we're going to do, what all smart people should do, is we're just going to break it. We're just going to break the damn thing. What we want to do is we want to find a row with liquid. We're going to do 6, 0. We're going to find a row with liquid and compare. And 6, 0. MCLQ. Jump header. Same style. Now let's see what we find. Yeah, see we have 0B, 0A. So instead of 4 and 2, we have 0B, 0A. And this should probably be what it is. This should probably be what it do. What we're going to do is we're just going to... 0B, 0A, was it? We're going to break it, and hopefully we buy it. I mean, the offsets look the same, so we're just going to assume it's the same. Nope. 0B. 0A. Let's see how she goes. Now, this was our extract. What we're going to do is we're going to save this as a different location because we don't want to really edit the extract, even though we have backup copies located in every place possible just to make sure we have them. We're going to save this over in our downloads so that we're not overriding things that we don't need to be doing. We're going to make sure that we're in our WoW client. Just go back. We're going to dump this into our map and pray it works. Already exists. Do you want to replace it? We're gonna cancel and just make sure that we're not permanently bricking anything. We're gonna re-extract this back into our downloads just to make sure that this is the same as the unedited version, just to make sure we have it. And because we saved it in a different path, it shouldn't give us any issues. If there's an alert there, it'll say the file's been reloaded from the source. Would you like to reload? It means we didn't override that. Once more. Alright, dump that in there and give her a spin. We don't even need to boot up the dev server because it's a client-side change. We can just go to the test server and check it out. Best case scenario, it's fixed. Second best case scenario, it's broken. But it's broken in the right spot. Because then we at least confirm that we're messing with the right stuff. Go to Booty Bay. Go fly up past Sabo's house. I like the little bungalow. When I first added it, I only had the lower door. Take a look at this real quick. But he's like, yeah, I don't want people being able to jump in. And I had thought, oh, I could have added invis walls or something. But I'm like, okay, just add a door. Yeah, so he's got the nice double door leading up to the top balcony. And the WMO has assets, but once I either figure out better ways to do preset assets, or I basically start, if I start pulling enough on Patreon, then I can actually start paying Ever Jr. to go and make doodad sets, or pay somebody to make doodad sets. I'm not going to ask him to do that for every single house, obviously, because that's just a shit ton of work. You should be at least getting paid for it. Okay, well, the tile's not broken. I should probably fix... No, the water trim there is fine. The tile's not broken. Now's the moment of truth. GM off. Fly off. Dismount. It's not broken. This means, perhaps, it will not have fatigue anymore. Moment of truth. Ah! Okay, well, we broke something else, hopefully. So we still have fatigue in this exact spot here. This is this very chunk. Yeah, you can see the gap in the water. The gap in the water, though, like I said, is necessary to fix this, but only for now. Only for now because... Okay, that's not a gap. There's not a whole lot of water in this region. So what we want to do is we want to find out if a different piece of water broke. Then we can confirm if we're working on the right stuff, which I assume we are. I assume we are because the data looks like it matches. You know what I mean? It looks like it should be right. I hate flying around the map looking for shit though because I can't remove the trees, obviously. So if I were to create a custom client patch, I could basically add a system that would unload objects in the same way that I'm able to just remove trees from Nugget. I could unload individual objects. I could unload all the specific type of objects. Would be a really cool client patch because then the wood cutting would, like I said, allow you to actually be able to like chop a tree and then after a while it would disappear. Currently the client can't handle that. I would need to create a custom patch though for that, which is something that's not within the scope of the project. I'd like to stick with the default 1.12 client with the client patch and not like a modified client. Alright, so maybe GPS can figure it out. Cell 1310. Cell 1310. So I'm just, am I way off maybe? Maybe I'm way off. I'm in cell 1310 according to GPS, but that don't seem right either. That don't seem right, we're gonna find out. We can just hang out down here, we're fine. Alright, now we're chilling while we work. Wait a minute. Maybe I'm an idiot. Did I not port in the right patch? Maybe I'm just an idiot. Oh, TD's in the chat. Hey, yo. And TD, we are working on some vanilla maps. Basically, I had a backporting issue with this. I think it might happen with the editor, the MCLQ fork, and even the bindless one. Basically, if there's water at 2 levels within a single cell here, it will break the water. So the way to fix it is not have two water levels in a single cell. I don't know if the water levels, if they're the same type of water, that might be fine. I haven't tested if it's the same type of water, but the only places I notice the issue are when the fresh water is running into ocean water. The ocean water will disappear, the fresh water will stay. It overrides it because it's got a higher Z value. The two different Z levels are conflicting. What I'm going to try and do is either swap out this cell or remove the fatigue flags at the very least, because fixing it, removing the water from the higher level and re-adding ocean water adds fatigue flags here. So Sergey asks, Bykowski, didn't you need to re-extract maps after you edited fatigue client side? Yeah, I would still need to extract maps to check fatigue levels. I'm just trying to see if it's breaking any of the water. As long as the water is not broken, we can go ahead and do that. What we're trying to do right now, though, is to actually break it. If I can break the water, then I can at least confirm that I'm working on the right cell, because the in-game GPS doesn't match up to the actual ADT cell coordinates. The ADT cell coordinates listed in-game are 1013, which we're trying to confirm, or 1310, sorry. Which we want to confirm. And this doesn't have a liquid chunk. We're going to see, though, it might be listed backwards. Again, things can be backwards, so we're going to check 1013. Yeah, no liquid chunk either. Now, what we're going to try and do is we're just going to remove the offset in the header for liquid. And if we can break the water in this this single tile, then we should be able to verify. If we can swap it, then. Because if we can swap it, then we can fix the water itself. And if we fix the water, then we can worry about other stuff. The big priority is trying to fix everything, but at the very least, we have to fix the fatigue. We can't just have fatigue sitting there. We could, and it wouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. You know, who really is sitting inside that puddle of water dying from fatigue? That's not really a concern for players. But my concern is that if I do further map edits, because the structure is no longer correct, it might create issues in the future. You know, in 6 months down the road, it breaks something else inadvertently. So best to have it all buttoned up correctly in the time being. Find the offset in the header. Where were we looking for that? Okay. No, I'm mid. I don't need that. Five 0 or 5-2. That's what we're working with. We can reload the file to get the original values. I believe it was 8.4. Now what we want to do is go into our original terrain. We have to move this before we extract it. Because we're going to be re-extracting from the patch, it's going to override the other one, which we don't want to do. So we're just going to cut this out. Store this in the subfolder. Extracted, edited map. That doesn't need to be permanent, we just need to be able to have that. $31.58. Okay, now we're going to open this up in 010 and run the template. Use the same template. See what issues we might have. Okay, and that one runs just fine. So that one's no problem. The other one that we ran was giving us an issue though, which we ran the same template, so that one probably had some sort of corrupted structure. You can see the export causes the tile to be renamed. I don't know if it gets renamed perhaps in a later patch version, which we're going to check in fact, but I believe the waterfall right there, I believe that very cell right there should be fine. Probably unchanged. We want to make sure though. Close out our patch 3. We're going to go into a patch file. And this probably did get overridden because I believe Booty Bay maps. I believe Booty Bay had some work done. So let's see. 158, correct. And we need to back that up as well before we extract. As a Roth. OG extracted unedited map. It's just more temp storage. We'll delete those probably at the end. Because they're client patch extracts. We don't need copies of them. We have the client patch, and even if we didn't, just download a new client. And then we can ignore. Make sure we ignore. We don't want that file changing because we already changed it. It's already open. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is then, yeah, reopen this. It's the OG extracted map. And this is the patch 1 map. We're going to run the template on this. Runs just fine. We're going to rerun the template on this. Obviously this one should run fine. Okay, so we have our edited map, we have the original map, and we have the patch 0 map. I know patch 2 doesn't edit that map. I'm 99.9% certain. So we're going to go ahead and look at the structure. Two. And you can see the MCLQ data totally different, like completely different. And it could just be, it could possibly be the template not running correctly, but we can see that the structure right here is just so radically different. biggest problem. Like I said, this template just simply isn't correct. So it can point us to the right direction, but it's not going to give us the right info. That's fine though, we don't need specific info. Our goal is to just copy the entire chunk. As long as we can do that, we should be good. Now what we need to know is the chunk size to make sure that the offset for the next chunk is not messed up. We want to make sure that the chunk size is the same and that we're copying the correct data. Now we can see on the other one that we were looking at, it also went on to start screaming at us in all A's, so that probably indicates a different chunk. And those are both the exact same, so we can verify that these files very likely have the exact same structure, because the offsets would be different if they weren't, or if that wasn't the case. And then we can see that these all get filled in. Now this, very much so likely, could just be part of the chunk, and we can see where the next chunk begins. The offset should be the same. Offset is the exact same. Beautiful. So let's see. What are we offsetting into? Yeah, A. Offsetting into A. Beautiful. So what this means is this should be the exact cell that we're looking for. This should be the liquid chunk, and it's got the exact same offset size, but the offset location, is that different? Is the big question. The offset location is different. Okay, well that's kind of an issue. How much of an issue, we'll find out. we'll find out, don't worry there. We're gonna find out. Now what we're gonna do is Control Z, you know, go ahead and undo any of the changes there. Aren't you entirely removing fatigue in the future? Might as well get rid of it now so you don't waste time on this kind of issues. Yeah, the problem though is that fatigue is also client-side. The timers are client-side, so they need to be removed from the map structure as well. I can remove the damage server-side, but I don't want the timers there. The way that I plan on doing that is by removing all fatigue tiles and just redoing them in Nugget. Basically not to be deep ocean fatigue flagged. And that'll work fine. Because I could just set, you know, I'd set the water to be specifically how I want it. The problem is these two different water levels are causing these flag issues. So even if I remove fatigue overall, it's still going to show the timer in this spot. And TT says he's having PTSD watching it. Oh, I'm certain you are. This is not how it's supposed to be done, but as shown with the Stygian buckler, sometimes you just have to bash it with a rock until it works the way that you want it. And that's what we're doing here. What would be... Add Spartan changed how fatigue exports in this branch. It's automatically applied based on liquid depth. Yeah, Sergey also says the problem is I'm not using an updated Nugget version. I tried the bind list. The bind list doesn't work right for adding water. I could re-export the map with the bind list in the original state, and it would work fine. And then I could redo all the edits in the bind list version, the updated version, and it would work fine as well. The problem is the previous edits, then I have to redo, and that's what I'm trying to really avoid. The previous edits were done with an older version of Nugget that didn't handle the split water levels correct. And that's predating even your version of Nugget. Luckily, your version of Nugget, I was able to fill the water into that cell, but then the problem is you're filling in water and it's flagging it as fatigue. Maybe there's a way for me to basically redo that edit that I did the other day with the missing water. I might be able to redo that edit with different water type, but I swear I did it right. It's not like you can set fatigue over here. Yeah, current layer, current layer. I mean, I only worked with one layer of water. I don't think I need to work with more. I could probably add a second layer of water with the river here and, like, fill out the river, but then I think it breaks. It might not break it. I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know. Either way, one way to fix it is this, and we're gonna we're gonna give it a shot. I could make a script that would nuke fatigue flags and then just re-export the entire map, but the fatigue flags only exist in the deep water, and my big goal is to basically fill out the entire map grid. I don't want to go back to the main menu, but you know what I'm talking about. I want to fill out every tile in the map grid, add islands, shit like that, and then just have no fatigue to where you could because in the reason why Blizzard had fatigue was to keep you out of these zones that were so far out of the map that you basically would die if you swam out there, or you would just swim out there so far and it would take you so long you might never find your way back. It's just frustrating for players, but 20 years later, I think people know kind of what they're doing to the point where, you know, if you're swimming off in the void, you kind of know what you're getting into. And Wallcraft's exhaustion system will work in a similar way to fatigue, basically. If you're swimming out in the water for half an hour or an hour, you're going to gain exhaustion. You're not going to be able to just swim off infinitely and stay there forever. You know, eventually you have to get up onto land and then, you know, deal with your exhaustion. So exhaustion is kind of like a fatigue system overall that ticks much slower, and you won't be able to counter it while swimming in water. So I can fill all these tiles in with water and not really have to worry about the player, because eventually they'll die from it, you know, after like an hour of swimming around in the ocean. Yeah, and you could Hearthstone, so it's not like you're stuck, you know. There's basically not going to be bug tracker tickets or in-game tickets for me to handle. And that's also a big concern with all things. This is Outland. This is I have to remove this. It's kind of just tacked on here because that's the modelchanging.net, how they added the tiles for people who didn't want to create new maps or couldn't figure it out how. So it just comes default on there. I have to pull it up and reuse Zone Masher, and it's just this section that's Outland, and this is just like a ADT bridge basically to get over to it. Sergey asks, would boats become a thing like small ones? Yes, survival you can currently spawn a fishing boat. I had actually backported the rowboat vehicle models over from Wrath of the Lich King, and they're in-game. You can actually use them to swim around on the water. The problem is they don't have mount points correctly assigned, or at least they don't backport correctly with mount points, so your character just transforms into the boat. You don't actually, like, sit on the boat, you just transform into the boat. So once the models are corrected, then I can add basically boats that you sail across the water. The issue is you can't have, like, transport ships. You're not able to steer them because they're client-side, and I discussed this in the video the other day, or the stream the other day, is that you can't have splines sent by the server. They're handled by the client. There is a way, possibly with Warden injection, but that's not a route that I'll ever go down, so it's not really a possibility. You could have boats that are like mounts that sail on top of the water that you can't jump while you're sailing because it's a boat and it can only be in the water. That's possible, and that's what will happen. And then everybody's basically just going to have like a rowboat. Now, in terms of what kind of boat you have, you can definitely have a bigger boat. I can give players like the ability to sail around as a giant transport ship. Then it's not a problem for your character to basically be shape-shifting into it. Just based on the way the size is, it doesn't really matter if you see your character if you're like sailing a giant boat. And then those boats would go faster, you know, they'd sail around a lot faster. But basically, this entire region is going to be a lot of open water, and there's going to be different types of boats that you can construct and craft. And those boats will allow you to sail around the water at varying levels of speed. And there's going to be islands to explore and tons of cool shit. You know, it's based on the original alpha map design too. So there's a couple islands over in the middle. There's islands to the south. You know, islands to the north. There's tons of places that are going to be here to explore. The biggest problem though is vanilla client fatigue. Vanilla client fatigue needs to be removed. So I basically just have to remove all of these tiles around and add a ton of tiles. But we'll get there. It's not technically a transform, I think. I don't know what it is in the later clients. I backported it from, I think, Wrath of the Lich King. It's a vehicle transport boat that NPCs, I think, ride on. Maybe some Tuskar or something, I don't know. There's 5 different boat models. I played Wrath of the Lich King back in the day, and I don't recall any of them being in the game, so I don't know how they work. I don't know if they were unused in the game files. Maybe they weren't finished. Maybe they don't have any attachment points for mounts, but yeah, I'd have to look more into it. Basically, what boats are available. If there's not available, then you know, I'll wing it somehow. Yeah, TD says, yeah, controlling boats is the main issue. Yeah, that's something that me and Game Mechanic were theorizing and theory crafting years ago, and the result's always the same. However, the newest developments with Warden injections would technically allow you to send spline points to the client, and then the client loads them like it's from a DVC. And if you can control the timers correctly, and broadcast the spline points correctly for the boats, then you definitely could, with Warden injections, create custom controlled transport splines. Wrath of the Lich King and later clients have, you know, different systems as well to handle the vehicle passengers, which can be implemented, but people want the real deal. They want a giant transport ship that they can sail around the ocean and steer themselves and run around on with their friends and then fight other boats on the ocean. That's the dream, is to be able to pull up your giant transport ship with your war mode guild in it up next to a different boat and just launch a volley, and then all your people jump onto their boat and just kill them all and you steal their boat. Like, that's the dream. Yeah, if you go on WoW Tools, Sergey, you can look up the rowboat models. Let me find their name. I can't remember if I pulled them out of the patch. I think I did. Or they should still be there, maybe, I don't know. Oh, rowboat vehicle. Yeah, if you search rowboat vehicle, there's a Blood Elf, a Darkshore one, and a human one. There's 3 different rowboat vehicles in, I believe, Wrath of the Lich King format, so they're easily backported. And I could go use them in the game right now. I have them assigned as mounts, in fact. But they just transform you into the boat. I did have one possible way, and that's combining the ideas, where basically your character transforms into a giant transport ship, and then basically scripting it to kind of be like a passenger mount, where your character and you and other players, your entire guild, can basically you would transform into like a passenger ship, and you would be controlling a passenger ship, and it would look like you're basically just steering a ship from a far camera distance, and then your guild mates would basically activate in some fashion a way to board the ship, and the way that would be handled would, their character would be basically sent to like a holding area on the same map, and your vision would be assigned to that model, that other player, kind of like a Farsight or Mind Vision, where basically all of your cameras would be attached to that player boat model, and that player boat would be able to then just sail around the ocean. And when you encountered another player boat, you could basically anchor your boat down, and what it would do is spawn a M2 or a model for the transport ship statically on that location where you anchored, and everybody would be teleported onto the deck of the ship. So you would basically be sailing around the ocean in the same way, and then when you wanted to fight, you would just stop, and a transport ship model would spawn, the exact same model that you've been steering, would spawn in that exact spot, and everybody would just be transported directly onto the deck. So you wouldn't be able to really run around while you're sailing, but when action or activity starts happening, then everybody is able to control the characters at that point. That would be fun, and that's the most feasible way that I've been able to think of for naval combat. And I think a system like that, I think that's good. It would measure the test of good enough. You know, that's as best as it can do in vanilla, and it's plenty good enough. Yeah, I think that would probably be the most reasonable way. Obviously, the issues being, you want spline control. You want the spline control because that's the most realistic. You want the boat, when you steer it to the left, it should slowly turn to the left, and it should slowly turn to the right, and it should slowly accelerate and decelerate, like a normal transport ship. You want that feeling and that tactile input and output. That's not achievable with like a mount system. It's basically just like controlling a mount or a character or whatever, which is fine. It's not a big deal. Obviously, you're going to have people that are going out and they're spinning around as a giant transport ship, and it's gonna kind of look goofy. But that's the nature of it. That's the name of it. That's really all you can do. In terms of naval combat, though, I think that's the best way that it could possibly really be handled. However, again, Warden injections, I've researched this, and it's absolutely possible to send transport splines to a client and have the client read them as its own data. The biggest problem is syncing them all up together, because unlike a normal transport where it's predetermined, the player's generating them in real time. So what you can really do, and this is where it's okay. Normally, if it was like an airplane or something like that, that's supposed to be very responsive, and when you go up, it goes up, and when you go down, it goes down, left, it goes left. A transport ship is slow. It's supposed to feel slow. It's supposed to feel slow. So if you're sending splines generated by a player through Warden injection to all the clients, it's kind of taxing, but not really. It's kind of the same as sending a packet. The biggest thing, though, is why it would work is because it's slow. It's supposed to be slow. So you can generate the next 5 splines that the ship is going to sail through ahead of time based on the player's current trajectory and speed and their current bearing and direction. You can generate like the next 5 to 10 splines and then send all of those in a batch to the clients so that the clients don't have to worry about having a packet dropped or lagging and not receiving the spline in time and then having some sort of erratic behavior where the transport ship's like flying around on their client. If you were to batch those out like 10 ahead of time, then that's fine, because if for some reason you had them miss a spline, it would just go to the next one. As long as they're not receiving data that's old. The client's good at reading timestamp data, though, so it's not really a problem there. But yeah, Warden injection probably would work. Sergey, are you in the Discord? If you're not in the Discord, be sure to join the Discord. The link can be found on the website, wallcraft.org. If you know anything about model editing, I'm not much of a model editor. I'm not really an artist. Blender edits and stuff, I've only done a few things, like the Caverns of Time Door stuff. But like M2 editing, I don't know anything about. So if you have experience with that and you're willing to help me out, and you think you might be able to convert those, I can definitely get them added by this weekend, next patch basically. Other than that, you know, it's something that I'd have to research and look into, and it's going to take time. Definitely, though. Cool. If you know how to do that, much appreciated. Getting back into the liquid chunk here, though. We need to figure out that the MCLQ offset is different than the other one, the original one. The rest of the data, though, should be in the same region. I don't know if this is going to show me how many rows I have selected. Seven zero nine 467. Okay. So we're going to go from start of chunk all the way down to end. We're going to see if the range matches. If the range matches, then we know the structure has the same. 709 466. Okay. Seven 708 574. Okay. So now what we got to do really is we got to compare the offsets for the next chunk, which is going to be MCSE. Let's read a bit about that chunk. Sergey says, I'm not even using Blender for the fix, just 010 editor. Do you have a good M2 template for vanilla? I think that's something I'm lacking, is a good M2 template, which is, I haven't been able to do a whole lot of M2 edits. Let me see. Let me pull up some M2. I gotta go in the back. Oops. Yeah, we'll check this out. Human tent large. I think I have a template that works far enough for me to like edit collision and stuff like that, but I don't think that this template is. Yeah, see, it's gonna throw an error because it just throws an error. Passes end of file. So this template is not meant for vanilla, but it works good enough for what I need it. So like if I'm doing if I need model names, or if I am doing any type of edits like collision, I can just go ahead and edit collision right in here. Yeah, like I would just strip all these bounding triangles, bounding normals. I haven't studied the RAF M2 file format. I have no idea how it works. Sent a DM with a Blood Elf model. Oh, solid, dude. Much appreciated. I'm gonna invite you to my server. Move it to the same format that I always use. Let's get this shot. Let's make sure I have a rowboat object assigned somewheres. Templates. Night Elf and Horde. Okay, whatever. 20027. We're going to have to assign the model in the creature model data, DBC. And I already have the display info add-ons stuff all set up. So, I want to 3015. I've already got that set up. 3015. So 90448. Okay. Add this to our client patch. Get rid of the old one. Should have all the skins correctly assigned. In a cruel twist of irony, the person that I'm doing the stream for, the person who wanted me to do dev streams has not been able to actually load the stream, and I just found out. What the hell? Oh. Well, that's disappointing to say the least. Alright, well, luckily Ukthar just tuned in here. It's very unfortunate. I thought you've been watching for the past 2 hours, man. Shit, my bad. I haven't been checking any messages. I told myself I just, start rambling while I do work on stuff. Alright. What was that ID? 0448. We got the Blood Elf rowboat. Dude, absolute giga Chad, man. Dude, Sergey, holy shit. What did you need to change in the structure? Or can you... You said that you edited the template in just a standard template. I don't know what template you're referring to, but I've been using like an old M2 template. I don't even know if it's the most like recent version, but it doesn't load M2s for vanilla all the way. and you said that you edited one from the Wrath of the Lich King one. Dude, incredible. What exactly had to change for mounting points to work between Wrath of the Lich King and vanilla models? Absolutely giga Chad work, man. Look at this, boys. Alistair's one for Wrath model. And what was the added? I'm guessing just a different structure. Probably has... It probably just passes end of file. You just, like, cut off the end. Oh, solid, dude. Much appreciated. Very cool, boys. Yeah, and there's the two other boat models that are transport boats that will have. And that's so wild too. I didn't even think that it had like actual mount points built into these boats. I thought that they would just be like some wonky place, but it's like actually on the right spot of the ship. Oh hell yeah, man. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'd definitely turn into a stream if you did one, Sergey. I've been looking to get more into like model editing and stuff. I do mostly core and database stuff, and model editing for me is like totally foreign. I just started using 010 this year, so as you could tell. MCLQ. Okay, we're going to ignore that for now and enjoy the spectacle of the player-controlled transports. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, with these I'll be able to set like the height to be specifically on water level and ensure that the player can't jump while utilizing them. And they'll be able to travel very swiftly through the water. We'll have like obviously no fatigue zones, so there'll be tons of places to explore off on the map and whatnot. You know, you'll even be able to sail the GM Island. Obviously, it won't have any of the vendors or whatnot, but it'll be a location. Absolutely sick, man. Yeah, wild. I'll have to assign this to a mount and get it all spruced up for water traveling. Very cool. Dismount off here. Alistair's template for M2 is in the... That might be the same one then. Let's see. I should have the... I posted the official one. 010. So I'm guessing it's one of these, because I've got these three. I don't know if these are older. The M2 Ultimate Expansion I had edited to make work. In fact, I should even try and run this one. Let me pull up the Human Large Tent, and I'll try and run that one. Because I edited one of them, and it was working, but it was having issues with something else. Okay. Sergey, I think I actually have the template that you're talking about, and I have the headers edited as well, in the same way. Because I edited an M2 template header a while ago so it would stop passing end of file. But it didn't work on every M2. It wouldn't work on M2s with like interiors or like weird decals that were off, yeah, like weird angles. I think I was trying to edit the fell form model from Wrath of the Lich King. Because this one runs no problem here. Then I'm guessing you redid the attachments, the M2 attachments. In fact, I can open the file here myself. Let's see. Start it over here. This was your version. Open the template. Oh, no, see, this one passes. The include file M2 types. Debug. Okay, yeah, that was probably the issue that I was having. I have this M2 template that can edit the vanilla models. I don't know if it can edit the backported models after they've been ported, though. Let's see. I'll open the backported model. That's fin. Okay, yeah, the M2 template ultimate executes vanilla files, but doesn't execute Wrath of the Lich King files. So I think that that's the one that I edited, but then it obviously has a conflict. I should save it over as a different one with the header unchanged. Okay, yeah, I see where you did it. Is it a shield attachment that's used for boat transports? Yeah, M2 attachments and attachment lookup. The template that I'm running right now, it runs on the backported model after I've run it through the converter. The model that you send me, it'll work on that converted version. It won't work on the Wrath of the Lich King version, though. And I think that the reason is the template... Well, I edited the template for vanilla, but it won't work on the Wrath of the Lich King one because of that. So, I've been using an older template that just shows the first structures because I just typically do collision editing. Okay, so it is a shield. So I should be able to do that then. Let me try and do that edit. Yeah, and I think that this is the problem where I'm running into. Oh, wait. I should be able to do it with the backported one then, right? Or does it break before backporting? Darkshore boat vehicle. Yeah, I'll try to run the multi-expansion on a Wrath model. This is the Wrath one unskinned. And then if I run the template, the ultimate expansion, because I've edited the header, it won't run. Yeah, see? It's in basic, where I edited. Where did I put it? Oh, yeah. This is why. I commented out the last part for M2 arrays. Now if I try and run this, it should... Yeah, there you go. See, yeah, I think I made the same edit as you. If you... I probably followed something Alistair told me what to do, or I just saw the error with M2 array. So it'll run with the M2 array on the header file for basics on the Wrath of the Lich King, but not on the vanilla. And then once I comment that out, it'll run. So really what I should do is just make two versions of this template. I should make one called vanilla, and then I don't have to edit this header file repeatedly. Yeah, I'll go down to attachments. Okay, yeah, so the Wrath version has like a full array of attachments for vehicle seating because it's got passenger structure. And then I'm guessing I just have to go ahead and delete these or clear these sections. But then do I have to change offsets for anything? Well, I have to change offsets for like the attachment lookups. Yeah, let me pull open the vanilla boat model, the one that was backported. I actually have to re-backport it real quick. Do that though, because I just deleted them. Don't delete them because offsets might break. Do I just zero them out then? It's not going to be here. Oh, yeah, I have them saved up here. There we go. I already have them edited. Yeah, function read M2 array already has a body. So I have to go ahead and get rid of this real quick to show the vanilla one. I'll rerun this. Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, this might have been the issue then. Backporting it from Wrath of the Lich King to Vanilla as a vehicle with attachment points for multiple seats breaks it, so the template won't load it. I think that was the issue. Because I can't run either of these now. Oh, no worries, dude. Much appreciated. Huge help. Yeah, let me read over some of the stuff that you wrote here. I just changed the N attachments in the M2 header to be the needed amount. Like it was 2 attachments in Wrath model, so I changed it to 1. And left the unnecessary data in M2 second attachment. And attachment lookups, you need to point attachment lookup 0 to your attachment. In my case, it was attachment 0. Okay, I'll grab all the steps I did tomorrow with screenshots and comments. No, dude, that's so helpful right there. That tells me exactly what I needed to know. Huge thanks, man. Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm gonna mess with that for a little bit. Yeah. So I can't edit the backported one, though, because it's backported incorrectly. So I'm just going to have to throw this one out. Get rid of that one. And this one runs fine. Denzo asks, any plans to make Steamweedle port in Tannerus with an actual port with ships? Yeah, actually I do have some plans for adding more transport boats, specifically one from Darkshore in the unused docks, one from Steamweedle, a few other Goblin locations that have ports, or port locations. I'd like to have like 50 total transport ships, with some that are more hidden than others, and many that are very useful for getting around the map, with a little bit more emphasis on using non-flight path transports to get around the world. Vitsin, or Kivs10 asks, upcoming private server? Yes, this is Wallcraft, the much anticipated project from beginning like 3 years ago. It's been in constant development, so the beta launch is later this year though, at the end of this year, and then full launch at the end of next year. Yeah, I want to read over what Sergey's been saying though, get some of the stuff figured out. Okay, so we have a template that runs on vanilla, and if we swap it over again, we can run it on Wrath. But they can't be edited models, so I need to get the original models, which means I'll use this one. Yeah, this one. These two should be the original. If I run... Get rid of that, and then I should be able to run this on... Yeah. Ray already has a body. Then it passes end of file. Yeah, it really sucks. I can't edit it with this template. Let's see. I mean, I'm not going to make any claims to know what the hell I'm doing here, so I'm just going to say that right off the bat. M2 array, but with base offset. M2 array. I read M2 array, already has a body. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know how the Wrath of the Lich King format's supposed to be read anyways. I don't know shit about Wrath of the Lich King. Well, I'm just gonna ignore that for now. Let's see. You can try a different template. I might have a different template that'll run on the Wrath of the Lich King file. This one runs. It just doesn't have the timestamps for bones or animations, but I don't think that this... I don't think it'll matter. Yeah, the attachments are the same. Right? Are they? I don't know. Yeah, it's really only Wrath models that are... Yeah, M2 template 1. This might be the one that you're using. Did it give all the output for the missing timestamps? I think that this is the one that I was using for Wrath, but I don't know. I really don't backport that many models. I try to stick with the vanilla assets, so when Wrath stuff pops up, I have no idea what I'm looking at. Yeah, I got the attachment points here. I'm guessing you said that you changed the attachment point over to shield, which would be 0. This is kind of the same way that the shit's not 0. What is shield? Yeah, it's kind of the same way that redo skins on PC models to make them textures for player models. Kazgrim showed me how to do that one. That was mount point. Mount point or left wrist. Okay, yeah, mount point or left wrist. Oop, crap. And then 0. Vector position, I'm guessing, is the mount position that you end up getting attached to. And I'm going to leave that the same. I'm guessing that should be the same. Yeah, that's all the same. Animation block, I'm guessing. And then for this, the seat, we just... What do we do for this one? So we want to get rid... Don't change the bone. Okay. What was that? Was it -1? Turn bone to 2. Okay. Oh, okay. Second attachment, just leave. We're going to go attachment lookups. Yeah, then we're going to change, I'm guessing, attach lookup 0. Does that have to be changed to 1? Or the memory address? Change attachment lookup 0. And ID of the mount point attachment. Oh, okay, so it just has to be the same as the ID. Yeah, it should be all set there, right? I think we can run the converter. And then change N attachment in the M2 header to 1 to only process the first attachment, and add to 1 to only process the first one, so we don't use any other attachments. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Attachment. I pass over it. What am I doing? Oh, there it is. There you go. I thought I passed over it. I changed it to 1 and add attachment lookup. Change it to 1. Solid. Okay. I'm going to try and run that now. Actually, don't even need to reboot. $90447, I believe. Yeah, there you go. Dude, wicked. Much appreciated. Now for the attachment points, the coordinates, the CA box, I'm guessing that that's the relative coordinates to where you're going to be sitting. And orientation is probably determined by the object's orientation automatically. Hell yeah, man. It's so sick. Reynolds says, any thoughts of adding dowsing to survival? I love it. Sergey just earned himself a VIP role in Project Wallcraft. Huge, huge thanks, dude. Fucking awesome. Now I just got to really figure out how I want to handle ships in the core. There's a big problem with the client is having them as transports. You're able to do this. Or having them as mounts, not like transport objects. Boy, I'm sure we can definitely overcome that. Absolutely sick. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that for the last one as well. The rowboat. Alright, converted that, now we're gonna put it in our client patch. Oh, okay, I kind of see the general concept behind that. Is that the boats, the models themselves, they do have bones themselves, but the bones are just attachment points for the players. And the bones are referenced there. Which is why, like, when you mount, if you try and mount an ogre, you'll be, like, attached to their arm, because there's a reference for the attachment point being in their arm bone. Okay, that makes sense for the rowboat vehicles. That means, though, that I can just add bones or bone attachments to basically anything and have pretty much anything be a mount. 6. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Look at that. Hey, wait. If I use these attachment points, that means I can use these updated models. I don't even need the custom scripting to teleport players into the boat's position, because these all have correct attachment points. I could probably even add the Tauren boat as a vehicle. I wouldn't doubt it. Let's try that. Let's take a look. Because we had the Tauren boat as well. I don't know if we have it in here in the files. No, we don't have the Tauren boat. There's a torrent boat, though, in the model. I think it'd be in here. Generic. Yeah, torrent canoe, M2. I have to run this one. Torrent canoe. Yeah, this is the ultimate expect template to view vanilla M2s, as long as they're not fuck ported. Use the M2 Ultimate expansion and then just go to the basics header file and comment out the M2 array structure, because that's not used in vanilla. So, in case anybody's wondering. Let's try this, though. Okay, so it doesn't have any attachment points added. I would have to basically create those. I would have to write a script that would fix all the offsets on that. Okay, well that's not going to happen. We're not going to bother with that. We basically only needed 2 boats anyways, and these 2 are plenty fine. Though I might try and do that for a horde boat. There's a troll boat that I couldn't backport properly. I might give that a go again. Troll would be fine. Either way, though, I think the boats are plenty good, acceptable at this time. The fact that we can now mount them, huge thanks to Sergey, man. Awesome. Good shit. Hell yeah. Try this. Yeah, there we go. Leveled it out with the surface. We cruising now, boys. We cruising now. Yeah. Good stuff. We're one step closer to the Wallcraft dream, boys. Thanks to the friggin' amazing community we got. Fly right to the moon. Alright. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up for today. We got some cool stuff done. We got some amazing work. Huge shout out to Sergey. Once again, thank you. For helping us figure out how to get these boats all set up. So, we got some new vehicles coming soon. I'm going to have to script them all properly to function like boats, where they're just going to exist on the top of the water. As to how well that's going to turn out, we're going to try. There are some client limitations in terms of stopping people from swimming down and whatnot, but I'm sure we can make it work with like a form of water walking, or maybe it'll basically have a form of water walking, which is, yeah, in fact, we'll try that right now. Look up spell water walking. Grab an elixir instead of a spell. The elixir of water walking, it should. Yeah, we're probably gonna have to change the some of the height for the model, possibly. I don't know. We'll figure that out though. We'll figure that out. Either way, friggin' lovely. Absolutely lovely. Alright, we're going to wrap it up for today at this point. We've got a lot of cool stuff done. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who was able to come check out the stream here and was able to pick up some information, learn something. We're going to keep progressing forward with Wallcraft, preparing for the beta launch at the end of this year. Beta launch, obviously, it's not going to be the same size or scale as a full launch. It's still going to be hosted on the same hardware and whatnot, but that's a-okay. It's still going to be a lot of cool playtime and a lot of fun hours for people. So don't be afraid to come check that out. Enjoy. Again, till next time, my name is Wall. Peace.